James and Jeff are there too. Okay. So Mary is the new whole health LGU planner. As many of you remember, we had a fellow who helped with a lot of the activities, and Ross had come to a couple of our meetings and did a lot of that work. And Mary, I'm gonna mess your last name up, and I hate doing that. So can you just say it so I don't do that?
Rushek.
Rushek. It's gonna take me
A year.
a year. Yeah, probably. I mispronounced Coran's name for a really long time, and then she had to write it out and phonetically tell it to me over and over again. I only got it right. So, but we're really excited to have Mary here. She comes with a great deal of experience working in the nonprofit sector and doing a lot of just, writing grants, policy, doing a lot of leadership work as well for the rural health. Yeah. Yes, okay, yeah, there's too many rural health things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I can remember that one. So knows a lot of the same agencies that we work with closely and did a lot of volunteer work around substance use topics as well. So we're really happy to have it be a part. And I really wanted you all to meet her because she's been doing a lot of things already behind the scenes. She's going to be writing some requests for proposals that we hope to have coming out soon. And I think you'll see the amount of work that gets done is going to increase exponentially because she's just coming in, already taking on a number of projects. So
Thank you. Welcome.
thanks.
Yeah.
That's what you're.
I think we should go on to the approval of the minutes, since I think with our online folks, we do have a quorum. So we're 2 months behind, so we'll do that for the May and June minutes.
Can we do that as together?
I think so.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for our May 4th meeting and our June 1st meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, great. Okay, on to privilege of the floor. I think Jan had a comment she wanted to share.
Yeah, Larry, this is about Olmsted, if you want to pipe in at any point. So, yeah, there's a lot of concern because Olmsted, which is the decision that people with disabilities have the right to live in the most integrated setting possible in their community, has been around for quite a while, and it's really important that the federal gave guidance that it didn't really meant to guarantee that people had that right. And so that's caused a lot of confusion and concern. And what's important to think about is that in New York State, it's already codified into, law. So it's not as concerning, but it's something to keep an eye on, definitely, because that's really, really quite a difference in what the whole thing has meant to people. And I was at the MISC, which is the Most Integrated Setting Coordinating Council, I think is the name of, is the whole thing. And there were several people that spoke up quite concerned about that. And one of the things they mentioned is that governor had not come out to say that, that wasn't what they wanted or whatever. So soon after that, she did. And other people had made statements to that effect, but everyone felt it was really important that the governor say something. So I'll stop now in case Larry wants to add anything.
No, I don't want to add anything. I think you did a great job. So I'm all set, except people should really keep an eye on this. The federal government is really the place where some of these decisions about how to move ahead get made and around most integrated setting. Also, any community that doesn't want to pay attention to or address those needs, will have the statement from the federal government to sit on. So it could be a scary couple of years.
Yeah,
Okay, it's gonna be a couple of years.
definitely.
Well, thank you for that information. It's good to keep on our radar here.
But we just get an explanation for me. So the feds may be messing with it, but our state has a law that supports it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we just recently got the governor to verbalize that.
Yes, it just needed her to, kind of say that the statement isn't where we stand on this issue in New York State.
Thank you. I have no board correspondence or announcements, so we can move on. Oh, Larry.
Just a quick thing for privilege of the floor. I don't know how many people saw the article in the Ithaca Voice, but the landlords who run the housing facility across the street on Green Street have evicted or will be evicting 50 people.
Yeah, I
And
did.
I have to read it to see but that seems to me like something we should do something about in terms of who are the people who are being evicted, and I need to know individual names and stuff, but are they people who are in the various kinds of special needs housing that is in there, or is this a general eviction of people who have really not been keeping up with their responsibilities as tenants? I would I would be bold enough to say that that they are using their power to evict to get rid of some of the very people for whom we supported this housing being built.
I can say that we're working with someone who's legally blind and they've given them a notice of eviction and we're trying to help them with that. So it's not, it's people who need it.
So I wonder if we could get a response from the commissioner, especially since I bet a lot of the evictions are being done under the guise of improving the health of the building.
Yeah, so what I can share is that there is a lot of attention on this at the county level. Particularly HSC has taken a really strong lead with the COC housing initiative that Liddy heads up. And so I don't think there's a need for more players at the table in terms of involvement. I think at the moment, the folks who may be facing eviction and have other ties to service providers have been tapped into those. And they are kind of managing a by name list to review who the folks are, if there's alternative places for them to go, and what the right supports might be or the needs that they might have to stay. The county also, the county legislature, unlocked, I think, $50,000 in legal services fees that I believe is going through an RFP process right now, which will be available to tenants who are in that building to secure. So I think it's a mix, Larry, of folks who, maybe have fallen behind in their rent payments and can use some additional support to,
Right.
Bring those back up and stay in the building. And some folks who maybe have just been in the building for a long time, never on a lease and never really paying rent.
And I'm not saying that eviction is appropriate in that case either, but there's sort of less legal standing for them to try to stay in that housing.
Well, let's keep in mind that homeless people were one of the targets for this, for a number of the apartments. And we all knew going forward, both here and on Cherry Street, the Art House project, we knew the kinds of people with the kinds of history were going to be, we supported those projects specifically so that homeless people or people at real risk of homelessness could have a more stable place to play, uh, a more stable place to live. And personally, I wish there was a way we could force the landlord to go through a better process. But I think if HSC is taking the lead on this, and if you're keeping an eye on it, maybe we don't need something, but keep in mind that we're dealing with people who are homeless or were homeless, are at risk for eviction, most of whom probably have um, a disability diagnosis, and we're responsible for the programs that they use.
Jackie,
And
did you
taking
have
away taking away their place to live means that the jungle will be, you know, refilled and other campsites will be developed by people who need them.
Yeah, we're past that point now. I mean, the jungle is occupied, and we had a number of residents in the building that never gave up their sites in the jungle. And unfortunately, a lot of this has come about because of the need to support the vulnerable population that has been successful in the building. There's been a lot of people that have been victimized within the building because of the lack of structures in place. And I mean, the state is taking a real interest in supporting the people that we can support. But some of the people were never meant to be in the building, and took advantage of people that were in the building. I mean, some of these decisions are difficult decisions because we're trying to support as many people as possible, but we can't,
But
not support people there that are needing it, that are trying to be successful. There's been we don't even talk about any of the successes in there, but there's been a lot of people that have succeeded that not necessarily through some very adverse conditions, because people followed them into the building that were victimizing them in the jungle area, continued in the building. So it is a very challenging situation, and certainly a lot of the work that's being done now to support people, and then also around the community support, because there are people that are very vocal that are speaking against the work that's been done and the successes that have been made in the building, because they want to cast everybody with the same light. But it is an ongoing struggle. Certainly art houses face some stumbles because of the transitions, where some people have gone back to art house that hadn't been there in a while. Some people, from Code Blue that weren't from the area that moved into the jungle. So as we continue to navigate and have the best possible outcome for everyone, we can't allow people to continue to be victimized who are doing the best they can.
Pete, did you have a comment? Yeah, Pete.
Oh, am I?
yes,
Yeah, no, I was just thinking earlier as you were talking, I know that Law New York is involved with many of the tenants, if not in talking with the county and the city and stuff too. So, if I would assume that Lydia has is working with them and stuff too. So I think that it sounds like the appropriate places in the county are involved at this point.
Good.
Jan,
If we're done with that topic, I just had a quick privilege of the floor I forgot to bring up and that's on the 26th of July, which is the anniversary of the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act. We're having a free movie at Cinemapolis called Life After, and it's about why, kind of like why, it's a documentary, but it's about why people with disabilities are opposed to assisted death, which a lot of people don't understand fully. So I think it'll be interesting and we're hoping informative for people, anyone who wants to attend.
Time did you say it was?
It's at 2:30, the 26th.
Wow, so it can be a workday activity.
Is it a weekday? No, it's a Sunday.
Oh, it's a
Sunday. We do it on the 26th and it happened to be a Sunday.
Okay.
Jacob, you have.
This is another I'll keep it real quick announcement. A couple months ago in the substance use subcommittee, we learned about the recovery centers that Casa Trinity operates in some of our neighboring counties. And since then, some of the subcommittee members have been talking about how great it would be to launch one here in Tompkins. So we've been meeting outside of regular subcommittee meeting time, and we have planned a meeting at the health department on August 12th from 1 to 4. We've been sending out invitations to local stakeholders, including treatment courts, treatment agencies, MHA, Ithaca Community Recovery, and a bunch of others. So hoping to get sorted out what organization might be appropriate to lead the charge on that, as well as we'll be able to help collaborate with them and what funding will be available. So I hope to be able to talk more about that at an upcoming meeting.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
New York State released their Rural Health Transformation Grant. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it's due next week. But I did see Casa Trinity on a regional call today, so that was great. So that is, it's, I get them just planting that here so that we can all remember.
There's
Yeah.
a handful of SAMHSA substance use specific grants up
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Awesome. We need to figure out which of our local agencies would lead the charge. Casa Trinity isn't likely to do it here. The reason it works for them in other counties is because it operates as like a self-referral mechanism. Their recovery centers get to be referrals to their other services, so that helps it be profitable. And because they don't provide any clinical services here, they're not likely to do it.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out what organization would lead it first before I think we can effectively be writing any
Okay.
applications.
Are they talking about putting
Yeah.
service?
Well,
Casa Trinity?
we should probably move on. I appreciate all the comments. We have guests from the DD subcommittee. James and Jeff have come for their regular update to the board. So we appreciate you coming and sharing the next couple of the past few months and what's been happening. Over to you.
Can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the last few months we've worked on, in March we had a transition meeting conversation. We had some people from BOCES come, and we had a woman from Mid-State come who works with anybody that has an IEP at a school that helps make sure that parents and students know what their legal rights are. That was a really good conversation. And during that meeting, we also had somebody from Finger Lakes Independent Center came and talked about the New York State budget, which we were super excited. It was 2.7% TII instead of the 1.7. So that was a good conversation and good advocacy in the build up to the finalization of the budget. In April, we had conversations about youth camps and youth services. Joni from YMCA sent some info about the grant that they got to upgrade their pool. Jamie from the Rural Health Institute talked about some parenting classes. That was very interesting. And we had somebody from the ADA, the Northeast division, talk about, you know, the legality of the ADA, what it does constitute people with disabilities, what people are required to accommodate for people. That was a good conversation. And in May, with the it being Mental Health Awareness Month, we had YAI come and present. They offer crisis services to people with developmental disabilities. And we had Mosaic come and talk about their counseling services that they offer to people. And in May, we also had our 4th annual resource fair at Boynton Middle School. We felt it was a success. We had 18 providers and roughly 40 to 50 people come to learn about services. We feel like that was a good number with people seeking out services and learning more about what options they have, which really ties into transition services, making sure parents and students are aware of what those adult options are when they're aging out of school or graduating, which we're excited about. And in our June meeting, we talked about self-direction, talking about lack of housing options and traditional services, how OPWDD continues to seem to be pushing money into the self-direction model to give more families a stronger say of what they're using their money for, accessing non-traditional services, and those things. So all of those conversations seem to go well, good information being shared, and we're trying to do better with everything that's presented or discussed, then goes out through our DD subcommittee email chain. So we know not everybody's going to come to a 10 o'clock meeting on a Tuesday, trying to make sure that information is shared through the email network, and then people can pass it along to their existing networks as well. So we're hopeful to continue to just share information, make sure people are aware of what the resources are, and keep trucking along.
Did you want to mention the roadmap?
Oh, yep. And Jeff and I talked to Harmony recently. We are continuing to work on a roadmap that is tangible steps for individuals and family members to take to try to get them to access services. Jeff and I are working with a couple other local providers with a goal of having a physical document or in an online document available for people for next March, which is Developmental Disability Awareness Month. So we've been talking about it for a very long time, and I feel like we're closer than we ever have. But there's a lot of like national resource lists. We want something that is very specific to Tompkins County, that will give you a Tompkins County doctor, a Tompkins County care manager, very specific local resources, so we can hand it to a family who's struggling and say, please take these steps. This document will help you. And there's also lots of resources if you have questions along the way to talk to somebody who physically operates in this county to help you. Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, I think it changed just about cover it. Are there any questions or thoughts?
That was our spiel, and he was just asking if there was any questions, if anybody had anything for us.
Any questions?
No, just
Wow. It sounds like your meetings are full and productive, and it's great.
Your
Yep.
hard work really makes, I gotta just say that your subcommittee meetings are always a pleasure to go to, because you put so much time and attention into your guest speakers, and they're very informative. And you also get somebody from OPWDD who attends. Nobody from Oasis or OMH attends, but and you made a stink when they stopped coming and they started coming again. So they're really great meetings, and
Thank
it's
you.
very informative.
Yep, and I forgot, we're also, we had one position open on our board, and we had an applicant, and I believe they are following up on that, so we're excited to also have a full board, again, for the first time in a couple of years.
Great.
Subcommittee?
What's that?
Were you speaking about your subcommittee?
Yes, yeah, we had one board opening for the subcommittee. A parent is applied, so we're excited that, you know, somebody with personal experience with supporting somebody with developmental disability. So we feel like that's a good addition. We have two other parents, but I feel like it's super important to make sure that their voice is heard in those conversations.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hope everybody has a good night.
See you soon. Bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi. All right, next on our agenda, Michaela is here, I believe. And
Yes.
going to give us an update. Hello.
Hi, I'm Michaela Courtwright. I'm the Deputy Director at Catholic Charities. And I also have Shawnee here with me. She's our Residential Director. And then she'll be able to help sort of answer some questions at the end, if there are any. So what I did today was I prepared a slideshow. So there are many a slide because there's lots of data. But we're excited to share that with you. So I'm going to try to share my screen. This is the part that always goes wrong.
It's not gonna go wrong.
It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's great. All right, let's see. Can you see it? Okay,
Yep.
great. All right. I have one of those split screens, so it kind of throws me off on what I can see. All right, well, whatever. Okay. So Catholic Charities started a place to stay because they saw a community need, right? Our mission for this program was to provide safe, supportive housing and life skills training for individuals experiencing housing instability and help them build stability, strengthen the recovery, and prepare them for long-term self-sufficiency. It was actually founded in 2016. So while writing this, I realized it's our 10-year anniversary. Originally, it began with 4 beds in one shared house, serving single women in recovery. Then with whole health funding, our contract year started in 2024. With that, we were able to increase our units to 10. We expanded to 3 shared houses and 1 scattered site. And now we have women and men that are seeking additional recovery supports and stable housing opportunities. So what we saw when I was looking through the trends of the last 2.5 years, the original need was there was a shortage of affordable subsidized housing. There were long waits for intensive short-term housing supports. And there was a need for housing that promoted recovery, stability, and self-sufficiency. The trends that we saw in the last 2 years since we started the contract, we received over 200 referrals for this program. Some of them are duplicated referrals through the coordinated entry, and that's just the last 2 years. We did see that there's an increase of shorter lengths of stay, but you are able to stay in the program for up to 12 months. There's increasingly complex participant needs we've been noticing. So behavioral health needs, including the AOT involvement, and cares, we know very well, ongoing recovery and relapse prevention, and adjusting to community and structured support after chronic homelessness or housing instability. So those have their own unique needs and adjustments. Sorry for all the information. So what we saw on this housing and recovery continuum was that there, as we all know, there different levels of housing are needed depending where you're at in your journey, specifically recovery journey. So we recognized that there was a gap in safe housing and recovery services. So a place to stay was created to go a step beyond our traditional transitional housing model. And we combined all of that safety and stability and case management and wrapped it up with a recovery living model. So some of these things I've indicated in blue, when we began, it was substance-free living environment. You create community with your roommates. You create healthy routines and accountability. There are relapse prevention and recovery focused services on-site, intensive on-site resources. There's peer support. So this can be whether it's our staff, alumni, or roommates. And then as they're living there, they're increasing their responsibility and their independence. Relapsing does not mean an automatic discharge. We view that as sort of like a chance for a comeback. Every setback is a chance for a comeback. And so when that happens, when there is a relapse, we take a second to pause, we reconnect, refocus, recommit, and then we go over an ISP, a service plan again, to look at those goals, like reassess, let's see where we're at, what do you need? Our experience shown that this kind of approach helps to develop the life skills, stronger recovery foundations that last longer, and more successful transitioning into permanent housing solutions. Substance trends that we saw: alcohol, methamphetamine, cocaine, crack, fentanyl, opioids, marijuana, and polysubstance use. In addition to those trends and the other factors, a lot of folks are having the challenge of just trauma in their history, and just in general having limited support systems with family, friends, peers, that sort of thing. So over the last 2 years, just pulling out that information, we began with 16, we served 16 residents in 2024, and now we're at 19 in 2026 as of June 30. We've had only 2 people need to come back, and that was when there was Asteria was temporarily shut down. 2 of our former participants needed housing while that was shut down, and we luckily had the space, so we were able to work that out. The average length of stay is 154 days. Last year we had a peak of 198 days. The youth, we are seeing a little bit of an increase in the ages. Over the last 2 years, we had 3 youth that stayed with us that were under 24. And now we are up to 5 in 2026, halfway through the year. So this is a possible change in the community. The average age is mid-30s. Older adults, we have served older adults, but in the last 3 years, there has not been. So this is just showing the program outcomes. So for 2024, as you can see, we served 16. There were discharged 10. What I will say, it's a little complicated, but the 10 that were discharged aren't necessarily the 6 of the 16 that were served. There are rollover throughout the years. So it was a little complicated to pull the statistics for this, but so we discharged 10 that year. 131 days was the length of stay. The next year we went up to 17 residents, discharged 8. And then this year we're at 19 and we discharged 14. The breakdown of the race, ethnicity, and gender. 1 or more ethnicities is 25%. This is of all 3 years. White is 47%, Black 22%, Native American, Indigenous 6%, Hispanic 15%, males 39%, and females 61%. I put this in here because I could not figure out graphs, to be honest. But here what it shows, it's just a little more broken down. So where we specifically, what year 12% went at discharge, went to institutions, which typically is prison, jail, or rehab, occasionally hospital, long-term stays. I think I speak about this a little bit later. And we already discussed some of this here. Okay, so program engagement. These are the last 3 years with the enrolled in education. This year, unfortunately, we don't have anyone enrolled. But over the past 3 years, we have had folks enroll, and Shawnee could probably speak to this a little bit later, but there's vocational and there are a few certification programs that our folks are interested in. So we help to get them enrolled in that, or they go to TC3, Empire State College. This is the average for the employed, folks that find employment while they're with us. It looks about the same every year. It's in the 40%. And let's see, income. So what we do here is they do have to pay a percentage of their income to rent. It is 30% of their income. So some people are self-paying, they pay the rent. Right now it's at 26% of the current residents. The majority of people are DSS eligible or receiving DSS. So we accept the full rate. We help get them set up with Medicaid and SNAP. Currently it's at 74%, 26%. When they come to us, a lot of folks don't have primary care, so we help get them enrolled in that. Currently it's 68%. We also would like them to be involved in some form of counseling. So there's mental health or substance counseling, 53% this year. 5% have identified as LGBTQ, and 63% have experienced domestic violence. I do talk about referral sources elsewhere, but just to run down real quick, the referral sources tend to be, I don't even see it on here for some reason, coordinated entry. But we do get a large majority from treatment court. Right now it's 42%. We also will get self referrals. Folks will come in just to maybe visit the clothing closet or something and say that they, are experiencing homelessness and how can we help? We occasionally will have the shelter or DSS or probation. Those folks will reach out to us to do sort of a warm handoff and go through the application with folks. So just like I said, there's drug court, hospitals, mental health providers, probation, counselors sometimes will give us a call. The common needs of the residents currently, safe housing, obviously, recovery support, employment, transportation, life skills. Those are the majority. Obviously, there are many more. Mental health services, needing assistance with increasing income and benefits, accessing medical care, and family reunification goals. We respond with case management, housing support, referrals to outside sources. We may walk with folks over to DSS or SSI. Everything is hand-holding if you need it. We'll be right there with them. Transportation assistance. We have gas vouchers, bus tickets. We've helped folks get home for a funeral or go home to take care of their grandmother, that kind of thing. So that's available, so they don't have to worry about that. Independent living skills and recovery planning. We do safety plans. We prefer in the first 30 days, one of our rules is to stay home, to not do overnight visits. There are no guests allowed in the house. We try to keep it a very safe community, a safe house as much as possible. And we really just that first 30 days is just establishing yourself with the staff, getting used to like that structured sort of environment. There are some chores, there's, a chore wheel. So yeah, success isn't just housing placement. There's a lot of success in recovery, income stability, healthcare engagement, and independent living skills. I promise her face isn't really like that. So one of our success stories is Nancy entered a place to stay in 2023 after completing inpatient rehab for long-term cocaine use disorder. Since moving in, she maintained sobriety, complied with outpatient and felony treatment court, and recently completed her treatment program. Nancy also rebuilt relationships with her daughter and set healthy boundaries with her abuser. She continues to be a strong recovery role model, attending and speaking at sober support meetings and supporting peers in the community and treatment court. This is one of our staff putting together some furniture at one of our residents, one of our homes. We try to make it very homey. Lots of, we might go to the reuse, get donations. There's lots of kind-hearted folks who like to donate. We provide things like vacuum cleaners and give them all the supplies and tools they need to, and teach them how to clean and just maintain their space. And that is an ongoing, every week that has to happen. We have had guest in-house workshops. I love these. These are folks from Women's Opportunity Center that came in to do some cooking lessons. Taught them how to cook a few times. I think there was a whole series. We had a vegetable garden. Ate the vegetables from the garden. Some art therapy. This goes a long way. I will say lots of folks have talked about painting rocks, and it just helps with a lot of stress release. I think staff also. Another success story, the last one is, this is about Rebecca. She was in a 9-month inpatient rehab program and lost custody of her child. The staff reported that Rebecca was maintaining sobriety, managing her family court obligations, and rebuilding her parenting responsibilities. When unsupervised visits resumed, she temporarily transferred into a scattered site apartment of ours to spend more time with their child. So it was more of a safe environment. They still couldn't live there, but they could visit safely. Rebecca later secured housing in her child's school district, graduated from family court, reunited with her child, and her sobriety went from 9 months at admission to 20 months at discharge. So that's pretty amazing. Here are some of our housing outcomes over the years. The green is the permanent housing solutions that were found at discharge. Orange is the shelter. Yellow is into an unstable situation. Usually that's if they just pack up in the middle of the night and leave. Doesn't happen that often, but it happens. And again, institution would be something rehab, hospital, jail. Yeah. Aftercare support, we're coming to the end here. Aftercare support, this is sort of another unique thing that we do. When folks have transferred out of our program, whether into permanent, it doesn't matter what kind of housing solution they have found, they're still able to ask for support. They a lot of times are calling for, a panic attack, crisis mode. They're having a hard time with family reunification or potentially an eviction. There's a lot of crisis stabilization that still happens after they leave. It's still a learning curve. It's still on that continuum. But yeah, they still have access to the on-call number. They can come to our office, get supplies if they still need that. A lot of times it's, and Shauna could explain this later if she wants, but a lot of it is just talk. They just need a friendly voice. As it says here, the unique support is primarily self-initiated and it's trust-based. It provides a safe and supportive relationship after leaving the program. So I feel like this is a pretty unique thing that we do as well. A lot of people that reach out are asking for help with wellness, recovery, yep, panic attacks. These lovely ladies are two of our former participants. The one on the right, she had her face blurred out earlier, was one of our initial founding ladies. We have asked both of these folks to come back and speak in the last 2 years at our annual fundraiser. And they've just have some really inspirational stories to tell us, and it's really impactful to hear their words written by them and not in a slideshow from me. And they love it, and it's a great, we're very grateful that we continue to have these great relationships. These are, I don't know if you can see it or not, but.
And Kayla, do you have much more? We could
Nope.
maybe open it up for a few questions.
Sure, yeah. And I'll just go through this real quick. Yep, housing just by itself is not enough. Substance use recovery, mental health, very closely related to housing success. Flexibility, harm reduction is very necessary and increases that engagement. And this is the last one. So in our 10th year of operation, we've become more financially secure and programmatically stable. This continuity has increased the participant success. So thanks to the commitment of multi-year funding for this program, it demonstrates how stable housing is actually a very effective foundation for recovery and self-sufficiency. And that's it.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sally, you have a question?
Thanks a lot, Michaela. That was great. Can you share your slides? Because I thought there's just a lot in there that.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. If you can send them to Karen or something, then she can.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. I know there's a lot of information, and I just never know. I like to have a very comprehensive understanding of how things work. And I just feel like this is the best way. There's just so much information, but to get the full picture of how a program really can work, or, I think you need to have that full picture.
Yes, this is very helpful. Good. Other questions, comments? Jacob?
Hi, Michaela. Thank you so much. I'm curious about your relationship with the treatment courts. You referenced that they're a big referral source for you now. Are you expected to be providing reports about folks' progress, or how does that work?
Shauna, you can answer that, but I know we're not providing reports as far as I know, but.
So yeah, we don't necessarily give like a weekly report, but we will reach out and have like a team meeting if we need to, if we see someone struggling. They reach out to us for updates. But the success rate with people from treatment court is amazing because there's so many players involved.
Awesome. Good to see you, Shauna.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm curious how many, I guess I was under the impression it was like everyone together in one roof, but it seems like that's not really the case, or it is, or there's some scatter site apartments. Is it a central physical location, or is it all scatter site?
So we have 3 shared houses and 1 scattered site. So we originally, our concept really, and it's most successful we've found, is to have a shared house. If we could find a house big enough to have all the units under one roof would be great, but currently it's spread out over 3 plus the 1 individual.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And they're all in Ithaca. We do try to keep it accessible. They could walk or take the bus, I suppose, but they're all downtown. They're all in town, so.
When we initially designed the program, we wanted every different kind of house available so people could have choice. But over time, I think you discover like people having relationships with other people, that peer connection and that working together in a communal sort of way was very powerful. And that's really kind of the preferred model.
I think that was the main thing I remember hearing as feedback from folks when they've left, as they always really miss things. Like we do weekly house meetings where we do dinner, and there's, like I said, like there's little activities. It's not all just therapy and work and clean your room. We really try to have a little fun, maybe go to the movies, go to the gym, you know, so you kind of feel like you're missing out on that. I've heard from the scattered site folks. They're invited, obviously, but it's not the same.
There's also that piece of like teaching people how to be housed. And it's easier to do in a shared space than in a single unit.
Absolutely.
Stu, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess, great job presenting this and realizing how well this program is doing for the last 10 years. One curious piece was, I think you said, well, the stats, 61% were female. Has that always been, because a lot of the treatment programs, it's male dominated?
My experience is that it's been mostly female. I can't speak to the treatment court referrals though, maybe Shawnee can, but we have noticed though, I mean, we have 2 men's shared houses and 1 women's shared house. So there is more of a need, I think, with the male population. Is that right, Shawnee? And maybe there's just more housing available that's for female. I'm not sure. So we have seen that sort of trending over time, but I think there might still be that, like, a place to stay is a women's recovery housing, you know what I mean? So that might still be out there, but yeah, I'm not sure about the referrals though from treatment.
Jacob, good.
You referenced some of the youth numbers, especially that there's been an increase in youth participation. Are there rules about the limits for how young of a person you can work with, and what's the youngest you've seen?
So we have always been 18 and up. Generally the ages are close to 24. The youngest I've seen is 17. That was a very unique situation. But yeah, generally the ages are like early 20s, maybe 20, 21, 23. Is that right, Shawnee? Sound right?
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And then one more question from me. You may not have numbers for this, but I'm curious about the other co-occurring diagnoses. You referenced trauma, which of course, when you're seeing addiction, you're going to be seeing a lot of trauma. Are there other things that you see as the most prevalent or most common co-occurring diagnoses?
Right now, I think because meth, I don't know if meth is like the drug right now that's really popular that we're seeing, and with that comes the meth-induced psychosis, and so we're dealing with a lot of that, but there's always that, was this person diagnosed with schizophrenia before? Like there's we don't know, but that's the big thing right now. Is
Well, we should probably move on. Really appreciate your presentation. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us. I'll send the slides over to Karen.
Great, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
McKellen.
Have a good
Shawnee.
evening. Bye.
All right, well, we have Harmony is going to be talking about the local services plan, and is it right, Harmony, that we need to vote on this tonight?
Yeah, we need to vote on the local services plan, and I also passed out to everybody some and for those of you who are virtual, I sent this to you in an email. So you should have a copy of the most up-to-date information. And so we looked at this one thing, the total opioid settlement funds received document. And I did find an error and talked with Karen in our finance department about it. And look at these numbers, not the one I gave you before. There was one mistake. I'm sorry, just I didn't see you sneak in here. Yep. So basically, we did need to vote on 2 things tonight. The one is, do we want to extend the Catholic Charities contract? Well, we can't extend the contract with them. Do we want to have this program for another 3 years, or would you want to consider it maybe for 5 years or something like that? because we will need to put out for another RFP, and I want to do that soon enough time so that we can get the RFP written. We can get agencies to apply. I'm quite sure Catholic Charities will apply again since they've invested in all of these houses and they have the staff and whatnot. But someone else may be interested in it as well, and we'll put a committee together to review those applications. That all takes time, and we don't want this program to end at the end of the year. So a vote on whether you want to do that. What you can see in this first document here is you'll see that from 2023 to 2026, we brought in opioid settlement dollars, they're called regional abatement dollars, almost $2 million. We anticipated spending half of that in the first 3 years of this housing program, because this isn't like this is more than housing, as you could hear from the presentation. There's a lot of intensive case management support. There's a lot of aftercare support. There's peer support. There's a lot of other elements that we thought would make it a successful program for the people that are hardest to serve in our community, who oftentimes get rejected from traditional housing programs. That's who this program really serves. And that's why you're seeing the courts figure that out very quickly and started making a lot of the referrals. So $2 million were brought in by the end of 2026. We anticipate almost another $600,000. This is our regional abatement dollars, and the city of Ithaca joined in, and they thought this was a really good project. They wanted their dollars to be meaningful, so they added their dollars in. So we have another $600,000. We've kind of technically spent, we budgeted to spend almost $1 million in the first 3 years. So the program should cost a little over $1 million for 3 years. We have enough money, we could probably go for 5 more years if we wanted to do that. And we would also write the contract, like, if we don't get all the money that we're told we're gonna get, we're not gonna be able to pay. But we could probably almost make 6 years. We really aren't that close, right? Because we have another $1 million already in the bank. We haven't touched. We anticipate getting about $600,000. Plus, it took some time to start the program up. They had some staffing shortages at one point, so they did not spend almost $300,000 in the first 2 years of operation. I think as the program gets more established, they will spend closer to the total budget, which is close to about $330,000 a year. So my question to you is, one, do you want to support this program going forward? That would be one vote. And then if the answer is yes, is your preference a 3-year or maybe a 5-year model? Because we piloted it for 3 years. It turned out to be 2.5 because it took about 6 months to get established. Those are kind of the questions about that. What you see on the second sheet is what the actual budget was, what the costs were over in the first 3 years, what they budgeted. At one point, when they first started, they were doing a peer program specifically with another Catholic charity. So they were contracting out peer services. And I think over time, they started just using their own staff. So they combined the salaries. So you see that change when you look at line by line in the budget. And then at one point, the second year, the cost actually increased because a lady had was renting one of the houses to them, and she knew who it was for, so the rent was pretty low. And then she decided to sell the home, so they had to quickly find another house. But it looks like they then got it back down to a lower rate. They found somebody else to rent off of that. Probably saw this as a mission, so they didn't charge as much. So there was 1 year you'll see an increase in the rent cost, and that's why that bumped up. We modified the budget to address that need. So that's the total cost. So the two questions on the table really are, do you want to do this again? If you do, how long do you want to do it?
Does anyone have any concerns about supporting this program going forward?
No.
Requesting, when you say we have $1 million in an account, what account is that?
That's the opioid settlement regional abatement dollars. Yeah. So a lot of that money came in, when it first came in, it came in really large chunks. And we wanted to do a big project with it. And we can write the contract that over time, as it gets closer, because the amount of money you get every year starts to drop. They combine the first 2 years. The first amount of money we got was actually 2 years worth. So it was pretty large. And then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. We will get some amount of money for somewhere between 10 and 18 years. It depends on the lawsuit. And more lawsuits can happen. So this is a moving number. So as soon as we write it on a piece of paper, the amount will probably change, but it tends to change in our favor. We get more revenue than we expected. So that's why I'm thinking we would be financially safe enough to say we could do potentially 5 years. And I believe that's what we can contract for. I'm not 100% sure. So we could do the 3 year, but if we could do the 5 year, it's easier to contract for people. What they discovered, I think it was the COC did a proposal for, and they wanted an agency to do a housing program for 1 year. No one bid on it because it takes you 6 months to get started. And then when you hire all these people, who's going to take a job that they might not have in a year? You know, it creates more stability when you can make it longer.
Jan, you have a
Confidence, well, let's finish this last piece, the confidence of 5 years versus 3 years. To me, 5 years seems the logical way to go, looking for where the money was coming from. We don't have to deal with the county legislators on this. This is money that's put aside.
This funding came to LGUs. We would have to write a resolution, say this is our plan, this is what we selected, and explain the program to them. But I think it's gaining more, people have more awareness of it. It looks expensive. You might have to do more explaining because on paper it looks super expensive. But when you say we're housing the people that can't get housed in anybody else's program, and it's an intensive model that's shown success with people that have, this program is more intensive than the SOS team, which is the state model that's similar to this. Our program's more intensive, and I thought it was interesting to see one of the referral sources up there is the SOS team. That's the state design, because this model works with more intensive people than that model can manage.
Jan, you had a comment?
Oh, I was just going to ask, is there any way towards the end of the funding that there's going to be a search for other funding to continue it?
I think what we wrote in their original RFP was they needed to come up with a sustainability plan. Catholic Charities is building an eShy program right now. They have other funding, so they're thinking about it. I think what we could design it as is we reduce the amount of funding we give to this program with the expectation that they're getting other funding over the last couple of years of the model. Because we want this to be sustainable. We don't want the community, honestly, there would be a freak out in drug court if this program went away right away. So we need to build them up, and they have to find other funding and make that a condition of the RFP.
Thanks. Is there any concern about a 5 year support for this?
Do you want to make an official vote on it?
Seems fine. Would someone like to?
I move that we support this endeavor for the next 5 years.
All in favor? Oh. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor of that proposal? Okay, that looks good.
All right. So you'll say unanimously supported if there's any question.
There's all my budgetary.
It's easy. Harmony, we have about, I don't know, 15 minutes or so.
I'm gonna do it because it has to be done.
Yes, all right.
So the local services plan review for 2027, we've had a number of reviews already. All three of the subcommittees reviewed the plan and gave a lot of really good commentary and ideas about what they felt we should really focus on for next year, and made some changes to it. We also had a meeting. Thank you all of those of you who participated, the subcommittee chairs, Nicole, Mary, Khaki, and Larry and Jan. So a number of you are already there. And we tried to get these changes in. Corinne and I had a little bit of some problems trying to get it in the right format. But so it's not 100% how it needs to be, but it's good enough for us to make a decision tonight. So I will just quickly go through the sections that are really sort of relevant. The first page just talks about, gives a couple of little examples of things we talked about this year in 2026. Remember, this is the plan is being submitted now of what we're going to do in 2027. Anything that we need to work on to complete in 2026 is highlighted in yellow marker. So those are the things you really need to focus on. So it looks like a lot of paper, but this is the whole plan that we have done for 4 years. Yellow things are things we still need to complete. Like, we talked a lot about workforce, having somebody from the Chamber of Commerce come, recognizing that the nonprofit sector, the human services sector is a huge employer in our community. What can the local Chamber of Commerce do to help support the workforce in our community? So that would be one thing we would do in 2025. If you turn to page 5, you'll see this is under the workforce goal area. Our first goal area is the workforce crisis. So on page 5 for 2027, we have support efforts to build a qualified and diverse mental hygiene workforce. See, I heard your feedback and I try to make that more specific. And we have a number of activities that subcommittees have identified. The state, OMH, OASIS, and OPWDD have created some very comprehensive plans to strengthen the workforce and make sure that we can find more people to do this work. And so we need to understand what their plans are so that we can better support them. So that's what a lot of the subcommittee work will do. The Intellectual Developmental Disabilities Subcommittee also will focus heavily on direct support professional position, because when you look at the workforce crisis in OPWDD programs, it is primarily within that direct support workforce area. So they're going to really focus, and OPWDD has come out with a number of articles and a number of positions that they're going to make. Mary's been reading a lot about that. So we're going to be focusing on understanding the efforts that the state is doing for direct support professionals and what can we do locally to help that work. And the IDD subcommittee will also be advocating that OPWDD look at peer positions like OASIS and OMH have billable peer positions, but in OPWDD, they are not billable peer positions. So how could we create that? Because if you want to have peers, you need to make them billable positions, right? So that's something they're going to work on. On the next page, page 7, we have something in yellow. So that means it's this year, and we're working on understanding the new housing solutions. We have a number of housing programs that are coming online in 2026 or in early 2027 to have another panel and bring in all the new housing providers, learn about those services, learn how those new housing programs are going to integrate with this current system that we have. You can skip on through a bunch of pages until you get to page 10. And this is just more things that we're just going to finish up. In 2026, we've been trying to figure out what we're going to do to get feedback on the voices of people who are crisis recipients. So we're going to develop a quick kind of survey that people can do if they have any contact with the care team, or if they go to the Mental Health Association or go to some other program and they say, you know, I had some involvement with the care team. Okay, so you could fill out the survey and let us know how that experience was for you, so we can start collecting data. We were going to bring in guest speakers and try and understand the perspective of people who have had a mental health crisis in law enforcement. Why don't we just ask the people who are having them today instead of talking to someone who might have had an experience 10 years ago? So that's what we came up with. And then for the next one, objective number 4, support efforts to establish a crisis stabilization center. We're still working towards that goal. There's been a lot of holdup, but we're going to get it done. And then support suicide prevention efforts. The coalition received some county funding, and we're going to continue to request that funding for the coordinator position. It was approved for a 3-year over target request. This will be the 3rd year where that will go in budget. Typically after 3 years, of being an over target, something can move to the regular targeted budget, which means it's just regularly in the budget. Then there's one I did not see to highlight on the next page. Oh, because it's completed, that's why. So you can skip that one. Blue area on the bottom of page 11. So if it's blue, it's for 2027. We want to create greater awareness for the public about available services across OPWDD, OMH, and OASIS. And to do that, we're asking the subcommittees to complete a communications plan. They would submit the communications plan to the Community Services Board. The Community Services Board would synthesize all of that information into one communications plan that would begin the next year. And then we would have every month, hopefully, some communication going out to the public about different topics. One of the topics to achieve another goal would be around trauma-informed services, the impacts of ACEs, why we need to build resiliency in people, how what you just said, Jacob, like people with substance use problems, you're going to find trauma. How many people in the general public know that, though? Right. So there's some opportunities for us to really communicate and talk to people about the services available to them. And it starts with that plan. On the next page, 12, how am I doing? Good. Okay. I can talk fast. I'm not loud, but I'm fast. All right. On page 12, we have another blue one. So that's for 2027. And we're this objective was extended from the original. We completed this one and everyone said, no way, we want to do more work. So yeah, what can I tell you? IDD subcommittee is focused on providing information to the public on service requirements while also advocating for change. The big initiative they're going to complete is that website, the roadmap that they're doing. And what's interesting about that roadmap is the system of care for children, Children's SPOA. They had a big meeting with OMH a few weeks ago. And we're going to apply for a grant. And if we can get this grant, we're going to be able to develop a website that's going to have all the services on it for children. And all the subcommittees said they agreed they would share all the information they have about the mental health services, the substance use services, the developmental disability services for children and families. And we could put that on this system of care website. So the subcommittees will be helping to support this effort that the children's system of care is working on as well. Each subcommittee at the bottom of page number 3, because we had to delay this one because we had so many things we were working on before. Improving coordination, and that's the one I just talked about. We're going to improve coordination across the systems. So if we really want to create for children's services, no wrong door. Like we are not going to end substance use problems in adulthood if we're not helping kids with mental health, substance use problems when they're 12 and 13. Okay, so we have to start making no wrong doorway for kids for services. Sometimes you get in a meeting, it's like everyone's fighting about making a kid not their problem.
Got to get them hooked on wellness early.
Yes, that's yes. That there's good things that can happen in life, right? Yeah.
How do you make that sound?
Preaching at the choir. My father was a teacher. Don't get me started. Get hooked on wellness. Get hooked on wellness. I love it.
Add it to the communications.
We're gonna put that right on a t-shirt. So next page, we have another blue one. We have a lot of work to do in 2027. So if we want to get started early, we got to finish up those yellow ones. This again was supposed to be completed early, but we have a few things on here. We've been just sort of hitting this goal over time. Whole Health now publishes comprehensive data on its website on opioid overdoses. Narcan providers now regularly meet in our county. We have Narcan vending machines that were alcohol. ACBC wrote a grant and gave us 6 Narcan vending machines. They didn't even talk to us about it. I called them on a different thing. They said, hey, do you want your vending machines? I'm like, absolutely. So we got our vending machines. We have these testing strips that a lot of counties do not have, that we are trying to get ahead of the different kinds of drugs that are in going out into the community and potentially killing people and harming people. And the substance use subcommittee is looking at an opioid task force. And there's this concept of a suicide and overdose fatality review team that we're looking towards moving in that direction as well. So lots of work happening in 2027 and maybe a little early. Let's see. Objective number 5. This is really still about us trying to get the Crisis Stabilization Center and the Crisis Stabilization Center finally open. We're going to have a big party. We'll finally get some of these services started that we've been working on. Page 14, there we are now moving into another area. We're on non-clinical supports. We're going to work on all the agencies that get pass-through dollars from the state, complete that survey on workforce. And the survey also has questions about the diversity of that workforce. So if you're rebuilding your workforce, why don't you make it a more diverse workforce? So Mary's working on analyzing the information we have so far. We're working with the county's new chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer about evaluating some of our questions and giving us some guidance on that. The great thing is he has an HR background, so he can help us with that. And then the goal here is to what do we learn from the survey data? What do our agencies need to better support them? Okay, a few more. Blue on page 15. We are changing the language of this one goal, of this one objective number 4, to support funded agencies in strengthening workforce diversity in order to improve access to services for historically underserved populations. We're changing the language because our old language was kind of odd. But again, we're helping, we're gonna try and help our agencies better understand how they can support historically underserved populations. And then under objective 5, improve health equity in the mental hygiene system. So we're collecting all this information. How are we going to mark whether or not we're making progress over time? So that's our next step. And we reopened objective number 6 that was also completed, support greater awareness of peer support services. And this substance use subcommittee is very interested in creating this peer, what's the name of the program, Jacob? Peer
Recovery
Center. And the IDD subcommittee is on supporting peers being a billable service. So that falls under there. And then on page 16, create greater awareness of the need to have substance use treatment services that address the unique needs of intellectual and developmental disability population. So that's just a high need that we have never addressed before. So hopefully there'll be some collaboration between the substance use subcommittee and IDD around making sure their services. You think about prevention services in schools that are available to kids in the typical regular classroom. Well, where do those services? Those services aren't happening necessarily if a kid's in a special education classroom or a different educational setting. So how do we make sure that everybody has access to the care and treatment they need? Okay, try to wrap it up. Objective 1 under, it says goal 6, adverse childhood experiences. We can highlight a lot of this information in our communication plan. The Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Subcommittee was really looking at a number of young people, children with disabilities who are abused and adults who are abused. The trauma is very high, and yet we have never talked about that in that subcommittee. So we are going to do more work on that and substance use. treatment. I think we just kind of made this a mental health goal initially because mental health talks a lot about childhood trauma and adverse childhood experiences. And we're not talking about substance use. We're not talking about unique experiences to certain populations. So we're going to really expand that focus. And then transition age youth. We want a respite program in our own county. And we want better services for young people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. That's it. That's the plan. Good. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Thank you, Harmony, for all that and for all the participation of members from the subcommittees and the board. That really was helpful. Any final questions on this before we vote? Okay, would someone like to make a resolution?
I motion that we vote to pass the review.
So this is the local services plan for review for 2027.
I second the thing she said.
All in favor? Hey, great, thanks. That's very good. Okay, we have an executive session that would be great if we may take an extra couple of minutes after 7, but we have a couple of applicants for the substance use subcommittee that we should act on. So can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Second. Okay, so
I'm gonna stop the recording.
Let's see. Well, they won't be able to vote.
I think
No.
they
So
can
not-
stay online, but just, yeah, there you go.
Yes.